Hey everybody, my name is Jared and I am a Master Mason in the state of Mississippi in the United States of America. And today's viewer's question is fairly interesting. The viewer writes, I myself am only 21 and the lodge in my city is rather on the old side. Is age an issue in Mississippi? Well, this to me is a very interesting topic because you can find such great diversity if you travel or even just look online. I have seen news articles written on Freemason websites where they would talk about lodges that are almost entirely a younger group of Masons where technology thrives and it's a much more younger generation type of environment altogether, just in the activities that they do, things that they do on their off time together, and those type of works. And the general look of them is more of a modern look than one that you might associate with gentlemen who were born back in the 50s. So is it a problem? Well, I don't think problem's the right word, but does there exist some sort of a generational gap? No, not in my lodge. I think the more you travel, and again, like I say, the more that you research, you'll see that there are lodges where the average age of the Masons in the lodge is up there. The gentlemen that are there are the ones who have been doing the work in the lodge for the last 30 years, and they come and they're dedicated and they want their lodge to keep growing and moving the work forward, but they're not seeing the new blood come into their lodge. At my lodge, it's a bit of a different story. I want to tell you about a man. His name is Dennis Harrington, and he is perhaps not the oldest man in our lodge, but he is the oldest living past master, in the sense that if you were to chronologically list the names of people who have been past master, the oldest name on that list you will find is Brother Dennis Harrington. Brother Harrington had a very quick rise in Masonry. He took all three of his degrees in the year of 1956. He was Master of the Lodge in 1959. Now, I do not know Brother Harrington's date of birth, but we can try to do some math here and at least figure out how old he has to be at a minimum. So back at that time, you had to be 21 to be a Mason. Now you only have to be 18 to be a Mason here in the state of Mississippi. So if we do a little bit of math, we find out that Brother Harrington must be at least 81 years old. But I feel confident that there is at least one active member of our lodge who will probably beat him by a few years. Only a couple years ago, one of our most esteemed past masters, Brother Myles, who was recognized as Master Mason of the Year in the state of Mississippi some time ago, passed away at the ripe age of, I believe, 96. So that said, we just conferred a master's degree on a man who turned 18 earlier in this year. He turned in his petition the day he turned 18, and we went through the required process by Masonic law. He took a few months to learn his lessons, which is something we will discuss at a future date on how that works, the time period that it takes to advance in Masonry. But he, too, like Brother Harrington, earned all three of his degrees in the first year that he was a Mason. So he is still 18 and is a Master Mason in our lodge. So I can say with a surety that we have Masons from at least 18 to 81, and I believe a little bit higher than that. So what about the gap that we talked about before? Well, I still don't see that. We have, I myself, I'm 34. One of my best personal friends outside of the lodge is in his 40s. Several other members in their 40s, several in their 50s, a couple in their 60s, and a whole bunch in their 20s. So I don't see the age gap, and I think that it helps our lodge because we don't have that, because any man that walks in the door can identify with somebody. They can walk in the door and see a younger man and talk to him about things that both of them care about. Or we can have a man in his 50s or 60s walk in the door and find somebody who he can talk to on an equal level as far as their general interest in things are concerned. While we can all sit around and talk about Freemasonry, there's going to be a personality difference with each individual based on their generation, their age, and the society that they grew up in. So I don't know the answer on how a lodge that seems to be stuck in not being able to bring in the new blood revitalizes that. I think our lodge has been active enough that it has avoided that potential problem. Our lodge is known throughout the state and has been known for decades as being a traveling lodge, meaning that our members go from lodge to lodge and either simply visit or help with the work or whatever can be done. And that's not to say that all of us do that, because not all of us can. But we seem to always have a member or two that can get out there and represent Longstreet Lodge. And I think that that helps. I think that that helps when you don't contain all of your lodge's ritual work, so to speak, inside of your own four walls. When instead you can go visit another lodge and get your name out there, that there's something about that reaps benefit back onto the lodge. It's an intangible thing that I can't really explain, but I believe that it's there, and perhaps one of you has a better way to explain what I might be trying to get across. So what I would say is, if you're a younger Mason or a younger man interested in Masonry, and you go to a lodge or you're newly initiated into a lodge and there seems to be that generational gap, first thing to do is respect your elders. Every single man you're talking to, you've already been told that they've gone through the same things that you're about to go through, that they've had to learn the same things you're being told you have to learn. Why not have the respect for them and realize that at one point in their life they were in their 20s, and talk to them about it? Just because they're not 20 anymore doesn't mean they never were. Ask them about what was going on back then. Has anything really changed in the world? I know you're not going to go into the lodge room and discuss politics, but while you're in the dining hall, you can talk about anything, and talk to them about how you watch some guy on YouTube who's using a webcam to record videos to try to get the message out there in Masonry. How did people try to get the message out back when they were in their 20s? And they might tell you about how, the only thing we could do is travel around and talk to each other. They might tell you about how there was always this annual party that people people passed away and they stopped going to this annual party, but how that used to be a really fun thing. They might talk to you about brochures and pamphlets that used to be produced and that were mailed out to lodges where people could share stories. So just because it's presented in a different way today doesn't mean it didn't happen back then. So find a connection between yourself and the lodge that you're trying to join, or the lodge that you've newly become a member of, and then take heart and know that the next time a 20 or 30 something walks in the door, they can connect with you, and that lodge can just keep growing from there. So I hope that answers your question, and I hope that you will join us next time for the next viewer question. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.